Welcome back to the Knowledge Channel. Today we are diving into one of the most mysterious and misunderstood stories in the Bible, the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. We were introduced to the story in the book of Genesis. A snake, a forbidden fruit, and the fall of humanity. But what if I told you that this story is more than what meets the eye? What if the forbidden fruit wasn't forbidden at all, and who it said the forbidden fruit was forbidden was not them at all? What if what set the stage for the fall of humanity affect us to this very day? This video will uncover what were found in a cave, and they are known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, and what they reveal about the forbidden fruit story. Expose for who the forbidden fruit story was really forbidden to. This video will uncover what a book found amongst other books in the Dead Sea Scrolls revealed about the story of the forbidden fruit, and expose for who the forbidden fruit was forbidden to. Here is the unbelievable part. We still see how this same story reveals and gives insight into the downfall of mankind. Stick to the end and find out the hidden truth in Genesis that few know about, and how this ancient story of the forbidden fruit impacts your life today. Let's dive into the story. Most of us have learned about Adam, Eve, and the serpent, and the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. This story is one of the most well-known story and narrative in the text, but it is more frequently misunderstood, and this video will simplify it, as the book found in the Dead Sea Scrolls give us new insight on what may have taken place in the Garden of Eden concerning the forbidden fruit. The Genesis chapter 3 verses 1 is said that now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals that the Lord God had made. However, from Sabbath school and Sunday school, this creature is known as a little talking snake. The image of a snake whispering, tempting to Eve is an epic iconography of the serpent deceiving Eve. She eats the forbidden fruit and shares it with Adam, and as a result, they are dismissed out of the Garden of Eden. This is seen as the origin of sin and the beginning of the fallen state of the world. But what, have you ever wondered why a talking snake appeared in the Bible in the first place, and who and why God created such a creature that is capable of deceiving his creation, and why this serpent have the ability to reason and challenge God's command? These are questions that many people don't ask and were taught to accept the story as were presented. Most interpretation use the serpent as a snake used by Satan to carry out his plan to eat the forbidden fruit. However, why was Eve not scared by a talking snake and seek help from Adam? But in any other settings, Eve seeing a talking animal would be an cause for concern and to raise an alarm. But why Eve was in a conversation with this creature? But it is because she did not see it as abnormal for animals to talk, according to the book of Jubilees that were found in the cave in Qumran, with other books of the Bible suggested in Jubilees 3 verse 28 that the day Adam and Eve were dismissed from the garden in Jubilee verse 3 verse 28 stated, and on that day was closed the mouth of all beasts and of all cattle and of all birds and at whatever walks and at whatever moves, so that they could no longer speak, for they had all spoken one with another, with one lip and one voice. And the language Adam and Eve and all animals talk was Hebrew, the language that was spoken in heaven. If we take this idea literally, we are faced with the idea of a snake caused the downfall of humanity by trapping Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, as is reported in Genesis. But if we take this idea literally, we are left with the idea that a snake caused the downfall of humanity. Yet the punishment was not only received to the snake alone, but by all animals in the Garden of Eden, including Adam and Eve. But did you know that the talking snake was not only there to cause Eve to eat the forbidden fruit according to Jubilees 3 verse 6? Adam till the garden, and he was naked and knew it not, and was not shamed, and he protected the garden from the birds and beasts and cattle, and gathered its fruits and eat, and put aside the residue for himself and for his wife, and put aside that which was being kept. So here Adam was preventing the talking animals from eating the fruits of the garden. So the talking animals, along with their snake buddies, came up with a plan to conspire against Adam from preventing them from eating the fruits that were forbidden to them to eat, according to the book of Jubilees, that not even the residue of the fruit was given to the animals to eat. Adam kept the residue for himself and Eve. So the serpent and his animals' buddies instigate a plan to get to Eve. And this is how things get interesting. The serpent was a pet of Eve. So that was another mystery in the Adam and Eve story. That is why Eve was not scared of the serpent at all. The serpent lived with Adam and Eve, and the serpent sided with his animal buddies and formulated a plan to overthrow the rule of Adam and Eve. Josephus written that Eve's son Seth was bitten by a serpent, and Eve cursed out the serpent. Then the serpent replied to Eve in a human voice and said, "O Eve, it is not our enmity against you." So the serpent was an integral part of Adam and Eve's life, in and away from the Garden of Eden. So that is how the serpent was able to convince Eve affectionately what fruit she should eat, because the serpent was a part of Adam and Eve, and at that time all living creatures and anything that moves could talk Hebrew, the language of heaven. The serpent knows what guidance God gave to Adam and Eve, and if they should stray away from God's guidance, they would no longer be obedient to God. So Eve pet snake joined in solidarity with other animals that were forbidden to eat the fruits in the Garden of Eden, and convinced Eve that she would gain knowledge and the power to create as God. So the serpent, the Valiant, Eve as the deceived, and Adam as the silent participant. But we have been told by Genesis that the serpent was just a clever animal, but the book of Jubilees, that was part of the book that were found in a cave in Qumran, known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, gives insight of what may have happened in the Garden of Eden concerning human downfall and the mystery surrounding the Adam and Eve and the serpent and the forbidden fruit. To understand the false story of what happened in the Garden of Eden after Eve and Adam was disobedient to God's rule, we need to look into the books of Jubilee that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that the serpent was not a serpent that just appeared out of nowhere, but the serpent played an integral part of Adam and Eve's life as being a pet of theirs, and would have known all the rules that God set for Adam and Eve, being that Adam and Eve and all living things speak the same language. So that's what Genesis means, that the serpent was cunning as ever. So the serpent was able to use reverse psychology on Eve, that led to her to disobey God's rule and led to the downfall of humanity that affected our lives even to this very moment, that led humanity astray throughout history. Biblical scholars have debated about the true nature of the forbidden fruit and who it forbidden to, and what was the forbidden fruit itself. Many believe that a little snake was a reason for Eve to eat the forbidden fruit and share it with Adam, while all this time it was Adam and Eve who were preventing the birds and other animals from eating any fruits in the Garden of Eden, as according to the book that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. In a cave in Qumran, Israel in 1947, that reveals insight into what really may have happened in the Garden of Eden concerning a snake, Adam and Eve, and the forbidden fruit. So who was the deceiver? Was it Satan, who masqueraded himself as an agent of light? Or was it a little talking snake that get to Eve and Eve get to Adam? So the snake or the serpent was the Valiant, Eve was deceived, and Adam was the innocent participant. So who was it, or what was it, or what really transpired? Did the book of Jubilees give us an crucial insight? Or was it Satan himself masquerading as an agent of light that planted a seed into Eve's mind that she would be powerful just like God? So the fruit that Eve ate was not a physical fruit, but was something symbolic, that she would gain in the future, to see in the future and see in the past, and could create anything that she could create, just like God Himself. So that's how she was deceived by a promise from the fallen angel Satan himself, that promised Eve lots of bag of goodies that he couldn't fulfill, and Eve fell for the trap, and then sell the story to Adam, and Adam buy in it, and they have a check that neither of them could cash. So they buy into Lucifer, the fallen angel story, and now they are dismissed from the Garden of Eden, because in the book of Jubilees it stated that Adam and Eve were the gatekeeper of all fruits in the Garden of Eden, and they were preventing the animals from eating the fruits. So Adam and Eve was aware of all physical fruits in the Garden of Eden. They know which fruit should eat and which fruit they shouldn't eat, because they were the ones who were preventing the animals from the fruits. The fruits were forbidden to the animals, and knew what food should be eaten by human and what food should not be eaten by human. And they know what fruit they were preventing the birds and the animals from eating. So they couldn't fall in a trap, or shouldn't have fallen in a trap, by a talking snake to eat a fruit